What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Shane Mallory, joined by my co-host,
Ricky DaCosta.
And you know what time it is. It's time to
run it back.
That's
episode
right,
6.
Baby. Episode 6. We are running it back. Guys, exciting show right here. A lot of stuff to get to. And it's going to be one of the first times that we talk a little b-ball, basketball. You know, back in the day, I just want to let you know I played a little street ball.
Oh, you got game?
They used to call me the round mound of rebound. Yeah, I got that nickname from Charles Barkley. So, I mean, I got a little game on the b-ball court. I do.
So that means he can't shoot. He could just get rebounds. America. That's what that means.
Listen, once upon a time, Charles Barkley could go score basketball, too. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, once upon a time, I could put the ball in the hoop. I'm a little older now, but I still do my job. I fill my role on the court.
Okay.
But before we get into all this, got to talk a little bit about this comment section because of the Cowboys and everything that happened last week. You got something you want to say to these Cowboy fans?
Listen, I'm going to say this, right? Hey, love the energy. Love the energy. Cowboy fans, keep it coming. I promise you, we keep receipts. And you guys are loving Dak Prescott. Like we said in our first episode, we keep it real. We follow every single team, and we tell it like it is. But we get it. Cowboy fans, you love your quarterback.
They're passionate. They're passionate. Passionate fan base.
Hey,
I
we
can
love
respect
it.
that.
We love it.
Respect that.
So this week, keep that same energy after you play the 49ers. Because guess what? We're going to run it back. And we're going to talk about those comments. And don't you run and hide if we see 2 interceptions, 27-17, 49ers.
Another loss to the 49ers.
Hey, I won't jump ahead. It's the trilogy, right?
Sure.
So let's see if you win. It's on the road. But, Dak, if you do your thing, we're going to show you the love. Right? Like I said, we're going to keep the same energy. But Cowboy fans, don't run and hide. You know who you are. Show up in those comment sections next week. We want that energy.
Yes, and whether you care to mention whether you care or not, I mean, if you're commenting, whether it's good or bad, we like all the publicity. We'll take all the noise. We want to keep it coming. But again, my co-host hit on a great point. We do try to be very consistent here. And trust me, 2 Giants fans right here, despite this guy wearing a Chiefs shirt. Look at him. He's already jumping ship right here.
I'm back, baby.
He doesn't want to pull on
I'll never pick against you again, Patrick Mahomes. I'm sorry.
He doesn't want to pull
Kelsey.
on...
Hey, Swift. You right, Swifty? I'm one of them, okay?
Yeah, oh man, people love the Taylor Swift commentary last week too.
Wow.
It was big.
Definitely.
So, but yeah, listen, we try to keep it real about all the teams, okay? And you'll see, we're going to come after the Giants too as well today because obviously our season's not going the way that we had planned.
Now, let the record show, I picked the Dallas Cowboys to win the division, all right? So if you run it back in the episodes, I picked the Dallas Cowboys to win. But I can still say you're not doing it in the red zone. And this week, Dak's got to show up. So let's just see what happens. We keep receipts.
The red zone has definitely been a struggling area for them. And again, it's not anything personal to Dak, but if you just look at statistics, he's not top 10 in passing yards. He's not top 10 in QBR. He's not top 10 in touchdowns. So right now, it's just time to step up a little bit.
You know who they miss? They miss Kellen Moore.
Sure.
Because you know what? With him...
The offense is definitely a little more explosive.
Top 5 in offensive production, and you don't have that right now. So let's just see, right? You got rid of him from McCarthy. Let's just see what happens. Yeah. This is the week. Same energy.
I agree. It's, again, if the Cowboys went and won this game this week, I would sit there and I would say, now that's an impressive victory. Like, let's keep it going. But again, beating the 49ers, who I think is the best team in the NFL right now, that's a big statement type win.
How you win matters, though. If this game is 30-7 Dallas Cowboys and the defense has 3 pick sixes for touchdowns and Dak has no touchdowns and 150 yards, that's not acceptable.
You want to see Dak go out and perform and
Dak
have to go
has got to show up. I want to see 250 to 300 yards, 3 TDs, or a rushing TD. Dak's got to carry them to a win. The defense can't win this game for them.
And putting scores in the red zone, too, because that's been their biggest, you pointed it out before, that's been their biggest flaw so far. But we will talk more about football. Got to get into some hoops right here.
Dame.
Thought
you was coming to the Knicks, man.
Yeah.
Dame. Right? You could have came to New York. I understand Miami. Love Miami.
Yeah.
I love Miami. Listen, I usually fall in love with Miami, right? So I get, Dame, why you wanted to come.
I'm sure a lot of
Miami,
men do.
Right?
I'm sure a lot of men do.
But we would have loved you in New York. But listen, he ended up in Milwaukee with Giannis.
I mean, what do you think about that pairing overall? I'll tell you my thoughts, but I want to hear you
Listen,
first.
I love the pairing. Listen, Dame can shoot from 30-plus feet out. Giannis is going to dominate the middle. He's got nothing but shooters around him, right? You got
That pick
Brook,
and roll
you
game,
got-
man.
It's dangerous.
I
And think
know.
about it. You got Brook on the wing. You got Middleton on the wing.
Sure.
So they got a lot of offensive weapons. Now, they lost depth,
They did.
right? They
did lose
lost
some depth,
depth.
Sure.
But you know what? They got the scoring they need, and it's going to be difficult to double Giannis. So that combination is going to be dangerous if everyone stays healthy. It's hard to argue that they're not the best team in the league.
I mean, again, I'm right with you. I thought the Bucks were the one team last year that would have been the toughest matchup for the Nuggets, and that was without Damian Lillard. Now, obviously, they run into a buzzsaw. It seems the Heat have had their number, within playoff series in the past. Last year, and then a couple of years ago, they had also upset them. I just look at the combination of what was the big thing with Giannis. Build the wall against him, right? Like, he's not the greatest perimeter type player shooter.
Yep.
Okay, he likes to get to the rack. So a lot of teams would build the wall. Well, how are you going to build the wall now when they run a pick and roll and you're just going to leave Dame Lillard wide open? Not to mention, you have pick and pop guys with Dame Lillard and Giannis running it, but then you also have a guy, Brook Lopez, who can step outside and drain threes as well.
From the center position.
Yes, from the center position, which is huge. If you're going up against a team like Denver, who I think most people would probably call the favorite, at least coming into this NBA season, I look at the Bucks and I'm like, whew, I feel like they are the perfect antidote to how Denver played this past year in the playoffs, especially defensively, because now what it does is it forces them to kind of stretch their defense out, okay? And now you pull Jokic away from the basket, which he did a good job of defending, at least in the playoffs.
But
last
listen,
year.
separate from Denver, if we focus on the East for a moment,
okay.
right? The Celtics is going to be their biggest competition because guess what? They
100%.
just got Drew Holiday. So one of
Yep.
the consequences of getting Dame
Yep.
is that Portland flipped him right to the Celtics, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
Sure.
So that's their biggest competition, but they're definitely past Philly, right? And now they
Agreed.
have the offensive weapons.
My Knicks, too,
right?
unfortunately.
Yeah, love them, but
I love them, too. But
we need more. We need more.
we need one more, stud to pair up with Jalen Brunson.
Agreed.
One more
yeah,
stud.
a nice power forward.
Yeah.
Right. Small forward. Excuse me. Small forward.
A wing player, a wing type star player.
100%. But Philly can't match up with them now, right?
Yeah.
And Miami, they can't double Giannis, build that wall. They're gonna have to address Dame, and Dame will open up the opportunity for everyone else.
Yeah.
So I don't think Miami will have their number
Yeah.
moving forward anymore.
No, I think Miami had a really nice run last year. They played great playoff basketball. And that's one thing you've seen in that team in the last couple of years.
Coaching job exceptional.
Coaching is outstanding. Eric Spoelstra gets the most out of his guys. But with Miami, just in general, I just don't think they are going to have the overall talent to go and able to compete with both Boston and Milwaukee.
Miami doesn't have any pure scorers, and that's their problem. They got heart, they got toughness, they got grit.
Yeah.
And that could get you
Jimmy's
so
probably
far.
the closest, right, to a pure scorer.
He is, but you know what? He can run out of gas, and that's
can.
Jimmy's problem.
'Cause he's
You know,
asked to do
Bam
a
could
lot.
give you one game.
Sure.
Guess what? They're gonna, Tyler Hero. He is a shooter, a sniper, but he can't really create on his own. So they have weapons, but it's still not enough. It's not enough to compete with Milwaukee. It's definitely not enough to compete with the Celtics. When we start to look at the Celtics trade now, remember they got Chris Porzingis.
Sure.
Right. So they got that big man that can shoot very much.
Got to
like the
stay
Bucks.
healthy, though. That's a
But
big
guess what?
thing
He's
for
not
him.
going to be asked to do as much.
Sure. And
right?
they still have, they got rid of Robert Williams, but they still have Al Horford.
Al
and they're still
Horford,
going
right?
strong.
Old man will give you
Yeah.
a good 18 minutes,
Yep,
right?
yep.
But listen, now that Drew Holiday is going to run the point, he's going to be the primary decision maker,
Sure.
right? So now, what's it called? Jaylen Brown,
Sure.
right? And Tatum don't have to make decisions at the end of the game,
I think it's
right?
a good point.
The coach can call
They
the
needed
play.
a ball handler. They did need a
Exactly.
ball handler.
For the end of the
orchestrator
game.
of the offense.
100%.
Yeah.
That's what they got with Drew Holiday. And listen, he's got heart and he plays defense, right? They lost that when they got rid
Sure.
of Marcus Smart.
Yeah.
This will make up for that now.
I like that. So before we move on, looking at all these trades and the movement, because there was a lot of movement, we obviously clearly like the Bucks and the Celtics in the East. Looking over the West, I mean, again, you'd probably have Denver, the Lakers, the Suns, are some of the favorites. If you had to pick early NBA Finals matchup / favorite, who you got?
Listen, I would go with the Celtics in the East.
Wow,
As much as
you're like my one buddy in our chat as well. He went to the Celtics also.
They're due.
Okay.
Right? They've been consistent. They've kept their talent. They've added talent. So I think they have the experience. I'm going with the Celtics over the Bucks, even though, right, I think the Bucks have more than a puncher's chance. I think it would be a 7-game series. Now, Dame is clutch in prime time, so it's hard to pick against the Bucks. But my first indication is that there's too much overall talent and depth on the Celtics, and they should be able to get past the Bucks in a 7-game series. And this one I'm picking with my heart, not my head. Right? I'm going with the Suns. KD, you got to get yourself another chip. Devin Booker, he's got game. Right? So I would love to see that matchup. Suns versus the Celtics. Big time basketball, big time stars. That's the type.
And they got Bradley Beal too, so I mean they got some studs over in Phoenix for sure. Do they have the depth top to bottom? Did they address the size issues? Because Jokic clearly exposed them last year in terms of depth. Does Nurkic help them out in that regard? I'm not sure. I'm similar to you, but opposite result. I got the Bucks over the Celtics. I just think the Bucks come playoff time are going to be close to unguardable. That pick and roll between Dame and Giannis is going to be a problem. I like the Nuggets still in the West until another Western team shows you otherwise.
That's fair.
But I like the Bucks. I like the Bucks taking the NBA title this year. I love the way they match up with the Nuggets. I think it'll be a great series. But, I mean, they've got somebody who can not only guard Jokic, but they've got people that can give Jokic a tremendous amount of problems on the defensive side, too, as well.
I'll say this. If the Bucks make it to the finals,
you got that.
With Dame and Giannis 100% healthy, there is no way they're going to walk away as losers.
They beat whatever Western team shows up.
Whatever Western team shows up.
All right.
Whatever Western team shows up.
Listen, as we get closer to the season, I think we're 2.5, 3 weeks out now. So NBA season's coming. We'll start talking more and more, maybe give a little previews and rankings as well. But big NFL weekend, a lot of surprises and whatnot.
America, there's no egg. There's no egg, America.
I wanted breakfast.
There's no egg.
I was promised an egg. Somebody told me I was going to get an egg last week. Didn't somebody talk about an egg, on my face, on my head or something like that? No, wait, why didn't that happen? Oh, Buffalo and Miami played, didn't they? How'd that game go?
Listen, Miami, why wouldn't you double Stephon Diggs? Right? He's their primary target. All NFL teams, if you double Stephon Diggs, right, the Buffalo Bills offense will fall apart. Plain and simple, and Josh will begin to make bad decisions.
Ooh.
All right? However, I will give the Bills their credit, their due, right? Because I said I was concerned about Josh week 1, and guess what? Since then, he's stepped up. Right? He's had 3 great games. And he's tamed the Miami Dolphins. So therefore, I got to give Josh his credit. Right? He's been making good decisions. And a little detail thing, he's been playing from under center. Right? Now that's opened up play action. That's given him some easy throws to really put the defense in a bind. And they got a little running game going. So I will give McDermott credit. They have a good offensive scheme going, and if they keep it up, they may win this division, right? Because defensively they're going to get better. So I picked Miami.
You did pick Miami.
I picked Miami, but Von Miller's coming back. They're 3-1, and Josh seemingly is no longer making the mistakes. If that continues, those good decisions, the Bills just might win the division.
Well, I want to go back and let the record show on 2 things, because you should go back and look at the tape before about Dallas. What you'll also notice when you go back on that tape is I picked Philly 4-0 leading the division right now. And I also picked Buffalo on the other side. Now, here's what that game showed me. I'm not going to sit here and dance around and say, I was right. I mean, I was right, guys. But, I mean, listen, I'm not going to sit here and pile on the Dolphins. It's not like they're frauds after that game. The Buffalo Bills came out and they played a complete game for all 4 quarters, and Miami just couldn't match them. And the primary reason they couldn't match them was really defense. They couldn't really stop Buffalo from running the ball. They couldn't stop them from passing either. And then Miami, who is the number 1 rushing team in the NFL, actually was forced to become one-dimensional on offense, because once Buffalo started getting a lead, I think the difference between those 2 teams, in my opinion, is just Buffalo, outside of the 49ers right now, I actually think Buffalo is the most complete team. Defensively, they rank in top 10 in all major statistical categories outside of the rush, which does worry me just a little bit. But offensively, Josh Allen is top 5 or 6 in every major quarterback offensive category. They have a top 10 rusher. They obviously have a top 5 receiver. He's leading the league in touchdowns right now, Stephon Diggs. So top to bottom, offense, defense, I just think Buffalo is a more complete team. And I think the one thing that game exposed with Miami, they're bottom 8 defensively against both the pass and the run, and it showed in that game because Buffalo kind of just pushed them around the field and did whatever they want. Miami has to figure that part of the equation out. If they can figure out a way to defend the run in a more sustainable manner, they've got a shot because that offense isn't going anywhere.
Well, let's say this, right?
Okay.
Slow your horses, right? We're only through 4 games.
Yeah.
And guess what? The Bills have to show consistency in the running game.
I agree.
So let's see if they finish the season top 10.
Okay.
Right? The
Fair.
opponents are going to get tougher.
Sure.
Let's see what they do against the Chiefs, what they do against some of the top teams right in the league.
They'll have to play the Jets again, who are a tough defense
They're
too.
going to have to
play the Dolphins one more
They
time.
have to play the Patriots,
Yep.
right? They're going to play all the big boys. I want to
Sure.
see if they keep it up when Josh plays more higher caliber teams.
Okay.
The one thing I'll say about Miami, they just put up 70 points.
Sure.
They went in there, right?
A little bit of a letdown.
With their bellies full,
Yep.
right? They thought they were hot stuff.
Sure.
Versus the Bills, they came in hungry.
Yep.
They wanted that game. Now, Miami will get better because Jalen Ramsey is coming back later in the season.
Yep.
Guess what? They lost in Buffalo, but guess what? If that defensive coordinator gets his stuff together, they'll double Stephon Diggs,
Sure.
right?
There'll be
and
adjustments for the
they'll
next
force the
game.
running game to beat them,
Okay.
right? I want Cook to put up 150 yards and beat Miami, right? You can't let Stephon Diggs 3 touchdowns over 150 yards. That can't happen, right?
Sure.
So I don't think that will happen the next time. But credit to the Bills. You need to do it again and again and again and show me you're going to keep up that run game. If they do that, I agree. But slow your horses. Let's see if they do it halfway through the season.
All I'm saying is based on the 4 weeks, I like Buffalo in the AFC right now. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. I think they're probably the most, from offensively and defensively, I think they're the most complete team. But I don't think Miami's going anywhere. Okay, but Miami, the run defense is a major concern. They've got to get that figured out for down the line playoff football. You're going to have to at some point step in there in a big playoff game. And again, especially if you're on the road, you're going to have to go and beat somebody in their house and stop the run.
Big learning experience for Miami.
Sure.
Right? They'll be prepared, right?
Yep.
Their coach, Daniels, this is his 2nd season.
Yep.
Right? He will
Most
progress.
of the team stayed intact. Yep.
Exactly. So let's see what happens later on because they will play each other again, and who knows?
I'm
they
with
may
you.
see each other in the final
And
in the playoffs.
Football in general, it's a game of adjustments, right? And again, we're 4 games in right now, so we have a little bit more. But again, we could have this conversation too when we do the first half report of the second quarter, right? 8 games in, and we could be looking at things completely differently. So
Absolutely.
only time will tell. Another really interesting game. I mean, they survived. You got a shirt on. Don't pull on Superman's cape. KC versus the Jets. What do you think about that?
I was highly impressed by Zach Wilson.
Me too.
Right?
Me
They
too.
cut him loose. Guess what? They gave him some protection.
They did.
He had time to throw the ball.
Yep.
And I think Aaron Rodgers played a huge role in his development for that game.
Okay.
Right?
Maybe even help with the game planning somewhat too.
His ball placement.
Yep.
His first and second read.
Yep.
As soon as he dropped back,
Yep.
3rd step, he's letting it go.
Sure.
Some of his throws look like Aaron Rodgers. So
Yep.
I think, leading up to that game, Aaron Rodgers gave him the heads up and said, hey, listen, this is your first read. This is your second read. If not,
Sure.
get rid of the ball, run, so on and so forth. So I think Aaron was in his ear before the game,
Okay.
right, to set up that game plan. During the week, you pick about 20 plays that you're going to run and where you're going to throw the ball. So I think Aaron really comforted him to say, hey, here's what I would do. Here's my first read. Here's my second read. You still got some wheels.
Yeah.
So run or throw it away because
Okay.
all you have is 2.5 seconds. And what's really interesting, when Zach Wilson throws the ball in under 2.5 seconds,
saw that
he's got
too
like
as well.
105 passer rating,
Yep.
no interceptions,
Yep.
and amazing.
Yep.
Right? But as soon as he holds it for longer than 2.5 seconds, he doesn't look like an NFL quarterback.
Sure. Listen, I love everything you just said, and watching Wilson again, it's to me the key. Short drop back, step, deliver. it seems like the Jets have somewhat of a blueprint right now. You know you've got a very good defense, and your defense got you back in that game. It seemed like Zach Wilson playing well coincided directly with the Jets defense getting some turnovers. Because the start of that game, it looked like it was going to be a blowout. Like Chiefs jump out right away, it's 17-0. You're thinking, oh man, it's just like, are the Jets going to go have to figure something out? Quarterback, all of a sudden they get that first turnover, and it just seemed like the game plan switched. Whether it was some influence from Rodgers, maybe the coaches, maybe everybody got together. But to your larger point, it seems like the blueprint right now for the Jets is you've got a tremendous defense. Put Zach Wilson in a chance where he can be successful. He should be 3-step drops, that ball should be out. If his first read isn't open, throw the ball out of bounds, live to fight another day, play the field position game, and give your defense a chance to keep you in the game and compete.
I agree with that. The only thing I would add, Zach played like he wasn't afraid to make a mistake. All the prior games, he was afraid to make a mistake.
Yeah.
He was cutting it loose. He was targeting Garrett Wilson. If you're about to get benched, if you're about to be kicked out of the league, guess what? Go down swinging, throw the ball 10+ times to your best receiver, right? You know, they threw the ball to the tight end for the first time this season. It's incredible, right?
Yeah.
You know, he tossed it up to Lazard. So ultimately, live and die as a gunslinger, and at least you went out your way, and guess what? He did a hell of a job.
Yeah, and I think he at least bought himself another week before the Jets go and make any serious moves.
Big time game, revenge game, right?
Wait, who they got?
Denver.
Nathaniel
Hackett.
Nathaniel Hackett Bowl.
Sean Payton.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, they're both 1-3.
I think that is correct. Yeah. Yes, 1-3 because the Broncos just got their first win this weekend.
So big game.
Yeah,
Revenge game.
That's a big one. Okay. Well, one college game, obviously, that really caught my eye. I was shocked.
Prime time.
Especially prime time, baby. Prime time. Again, we got to check the copyright on that. Colorado, USC. Colorado almost pulls it off. If I can, my largest takeaway from that game, everybody who's talking about USC, I think a game like that shows they're not winning a national title because you've got to be able to get some stops and play some defense. And this is a thing that seems to follow Lincoln Riley because it was the same thing in Oklahoma. Great offenses, all right? The defense can't stop anybody. Look at Oklahoma now with Brent Venables running them. They actually have a competitive team and, more importantly, competitive defense. So Colorado, I mean, man, give this team another 1 to 2 years. I mean, look out. I think they're going to get some serious talent here. But what's your takeaway from that?
Couple things. So what you just said regarding USC and Lincoln Riley, I think the problem with them is that they run their offensive scheme so quickly. Yeah. Their defense is always on the field.
Okay.
So
they do score, it seems like, at will almost.
Exactly. So a part of the issue is the defense is playing so many plays that eventually they tire out. There's there's but so much defensive plays, right?
Sure.
There's a saying, right? The best defense is a great offense, right?
Sure.
If you're shortening the game, if you're running the ball, if you're holding on to the ball, now all of a sudden the defense is playing less plays. They can maximize their ability.
And they're not built that way.
They're not built that way. Lincoln Riley's systems aren't built that way. So I don't think it's about talent and skill players on defense. I think the offense is actually the problem. You're scoring too quickly.
Sure.
And
kind of the old Chip Kelly Oregon problem back in the day, 100%. Right?
So it's great on offense, but it's killing your defense.
Yeah. And you can win a lot of games like that in college, but you're not going to win. You have to get some
time.
stops.
It's an issue, exactly.
Yeah.
So my thoughts on the game is that Shedeur Sanders is for real.
My
second thought,
stud.
100%.
He's a stud.
My second thought is Travis Hunter played in that game.
He might win.
Colorado would have won that game, right? So it sucks that he was out. He might still be out another 2 weeks.
Sure.
But guess what? Their young guys really stepped up. They found something in their rookie cornerback. They found someone in their receiver. He had like 150 yards with 5 games. I'm slipping his name. Miller, I think is his name.
Oh, okay. From Colorado.
From Colorado.
Okay,
did an amazing job. It was his first game. 2 touchdowns, 150 yards.
Oh, so he's a freshman.
Amazing. Freshman.
Oh, wow.
Very, very impressive. Dion is doing something special. He's literally 5 offensive linemen away and 3 defensive linemen away from being something special because they have the offensive and defensive weapons. Now, I'd like to see some more linebackers, and here's also
it's at the line of scrimmage too. Like that.
100%.
That's where they need to make their biggest
gains. They need the
gains.
hogs up front. But
you
guess
said
what?
that a couple weeks ago too.
Shedeur Sanders didn't play. He would have made a difference in the secondary.
Yeah.
Travis Hunter didn't play.
Sure.
Not only does he play secondary, he plays offensive well.
Yeah.
Right. And excuse me, Shiloh Sanders.
Shiloh Sanders.
Yep,
Shedeur is.
Shedeur is a quarterback. So that's, listen, Colorado's got a bright future, excited about it. And I'm not jumping off that bandwagon.
And it's nice to see them too bounce back after the beating. Obviously, they took Morgan, for them to bounce back and go play a major Power 5 team like USC that close, touchdown game. I mean, it was awesome.
Now, last thing, diving in, if you really look at Colorado, they always start slow, right?
Okay.
Your first 3 quarters, they're not putting up as much points. When it turns
same thing in
prime
this
time,
game too, right?
Same
it was
thing,
a big
right?
lead to start because I got to the game late. Like
Exactly.
I got the home
but
late
the
to watch
fourth
it.
quarter, everything changes. Their offense goes through the roof.
Sure.
Right? Their defense steps up. So let's see if the coaching staff could get them revved up to have a lead at half, and let's see what they do in a game like that.
Okay, listen, I'm loving college ball right now because it just seems like it's almost like a crapshoot in terms of who's going to win this year. I see still anywhere from 4 to 6 teams that have a shot. So, I mean, I think that was something that was hurting college football the last couple of years, the lack of parity. Seems like they're starting to get it back now. So,
Agreed.
It's good to see. Man, some other surprise NFL games. I think one that we both did not see coming, a Pittsburgh versus Houston game. Houston whooped them.
Who? C.J. Stroud. C.J.
Dude's
Stroud.
for real. 6 touchdowns, no interceptions.
No
to start
interception,
his
top
career.
5 in yards to start the season.
Maybe he breaks that little Ohio State curse I mentioned. I mean, he looks good.
Hey, just might. But a part of the problem is if you just look at their offensive scheme versus the Steelers' offensive scheme, there's an absolute problem that's going on. And now Kenny Pickett is hurt. Something's got to change with the Steelers organization. We all believe in Mike Tomlin.
Sure.
But offensively, there's a problem going on. And if you don't address it within, whether, you have the offensive coordinator, he changes up the game plan, bringing someone else to run the game plan, to create the offensive plays. But there's an issue going on right now with their offensive scheme. There's no reason they should be that poor.
No.
If I'm not mistaken, they put up 3 or 6 points in that game. That's just,
It was low, wasn't it? Like it was 20. Was it 27-3? I don't remember the exact score.
I think it was like,
but it
in
was a
that
lot
ballpark.
to a little.
It was terrible, right? So they got an offensive problem there, and now your rookie quarterback, your sophomore quarterback got hurt. I'm concerned in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I am too. And as good as that defense is, it seems like it's the way you're going to call offense. You're kind of wasting the defense in some regards, similar to the Jets in some regards too.
But like I brought up, right?
Defense.
If the defense is always on the field, eventually, right, a mistake is going to occur. They're going to
warts are
wear
gonna show
down,
up.
right? The offense. Listen, I'd love to see that offense give them 24 points a game, and let's see what that defense would look like, right?
Yeah.
So let's, Mike Tomlin, I'm worried about you winning 9 games this season.
Getting to the magic number.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say with that too is just Houston. The one thing you're seeing too is 2 nice young weapons in Nico Collins and Tank Dell. I mean, seems like the team could have a bright future, and they're definitely a bit of a surprise to me. How about
them Cowboys?
Yeah, how about Cowboys versus New England?
Listen, I was surprised at how you won, right? I thought it would have been a closer matchup. So good job, Cowboys, but what in the world is going on with the Patriots, right? Bill Belichick, you are ruining your reputation, right? You may have ruined Mac Jones, right? There's a lot of problems going on in New England. You haven't drafted well. There's not a lot of talent on that offense.
No.
So my concern is that, right, there's a saying that if you cook the food, you want to buy the groceries as well. But guess what, Bill? You need to just focus on coaching defense, because right now you can't pick offensive talent to save your life.
He hasn't been able to draft it in a long time. It's really catching up with him. They just have no separators. And the problem is no separators, no ability to go deep. Okay, their run game has not been good this year too, which is something they usually pride themselves on. It seems like they're fairly easy to predict, and it showed that in the Cowboys. But I will say this to the Cowboys. Not 100% sold yet. Yes, you went and dominated New England.
The defense did.
The defense went and dominated New England. Offensive red zone struggles still seem to continue to persist. Dallas, I'm still waiting. I'm going to judge you based on next week. That's my game for you guys that I'm going to really be judging you guys on. But nonetheless, they showed up. They did what they were supposed to do against an inferior opponent. They went and dominated.
Absolutely.
Listen, that just about wraps up this first segment. We will be right back after this quick break. What's up, everyone? We're back. It's segment 2 of Run It Back. Before we get into our brand new segment 2, I'd be remiss to not bring up our hometown New York Football Giants had a little bit of chance maybe talk about them right now. We'll talk about them probably even more in the first quarter report too as well. But I wanted to talk about that game and just in general, your thoughts, my thoughts, like how the Giants season is opening right now.
Listen,
that Monday night game against Seattle, what'd you think?
Listen, I'm consistent, right? If I'm going to hold the Cowboys accountable for their performances,
Same here.
I have to hold the Giants accountable to their performance. It is a train wreck right now.
It's not looking good.
Amongst my friends in the group chats, right? They're blaming the coach off the head coach, the offensive coordinator.
It's the play calling. It's Daniel Jones. It's the O-line.
It's two clear things to me, right?
Okay.
I don't think necessarily coaching is the problem. Granted, I will criticize the coaching for not having a better blocking scheme when you have 3 starting offensive linemen out.
Yeah.
Right? They should have been max protection.
Sure.
You bring in a tight end. You have the running back block as well.
Yeah.
But my problem is that we spent $40 million on Daniel Jones, right? And he threw the ball twice beyond 12 yards, right? Now, he fumbled, right? And that put 7 points on the board.
Sure.
Another 7 point pick six, right? Another 7 points on the board.
It was just a bad throw. It was a bad throw. There were 2 defenders there.
They were sitting on the route. Now, here's the thing. If you look at it carefully, it was coming open. He needed to throw it to the back pylon, right? And then the guy could have caught the receiver, caught a touchdown.
Yeah.
So a part of my issue is the decision making of the quarterback.
Sure.
Now, he's in his 5th year. For $40 million, right? We expect more. The expectation is higher. He should be able to throw the ball beyond 12 yards more than 2 times. He should be able to throw for more than 15 touchdowns within a season, as even though he has great legs, I don't need him to be another running back. And I could get a running back for a hell of a lot cheaper.
That's always his first choice, too, is to run.
Agreed. So I think just my overall standpoint, if we're going to make this mistake with Daniel Jones and $40 million, we can go get a rookie.
Yeah.
Right? To build upon and reset. I think we need more depth in the offensive linemen. I don't think we're going to fix the offensive line through the draft. We need some veterans to mix in with the talent that we have to really solidify that offensive line.
Yeah.
And I think overall we lost some veteran defense as well. Our secondary is pretty young. So
it's a young team. It is a young team.
We need some offensive weapons, right? We need receivers that can go deep, right? Even our rookie Hyatt, we're not even utilizing his speed. So
we could have get him the ball
100%. So that's my biggest issue. We don't have the weapons at receiver, right? Daniel Jones isn't getting them the ball. We could use some veteran presence on the offensive line. So I got a lot of issues overall. All my friends think I hate Daniel Jones. I'm a Daniel Jones hater. My problem is value. If I'm going to spend $40 million on him, he's got to make up for our deficiencies.
Sure.
And guess what? He cannot.
Yeah.
So I'd rather spend that $40 million on a veteran wide receiver, another veteran offensive lineman, maybe bring in some younger guys to increase the talent.
Sure.
But right now, we need more weapons.
Listen, I can't argue with anything you just said. The biggest thing that I'm watching and taking away is, as a Giants fan after last season, you really thought we were coming into the season with a ton of hope. And you thought 9-8 with a team that was last year. I mean, you want to talk about outkicking your coverage. I mean, that team way outperformed the level of talent that was on the roster. So you're sitting there thinking all of a sudden they bring in Darren Waller. They draft Jalen Hyatt. A couple of guys that were first-year players last year moving to second-year players. Banks, the young corner.
From Maryland,
You're hoping that Kayvon Thibodeau steps up.
He's been a disappointment.
He has been. The Giants' defense in general right now, ranked 30th in the league. I mean, they're not performing very well right now, up to par. I thought the defense would be much better this year. It's hard to just blame it on one thing. I really like Dable, and I really like Shane. The one thing I'll say about Coach Dable is, I get it, you're frustrated. Like, try to bring maybe just a little bit more calm posturing when you're going at your quarterback on the sideline. Because I get it. The throw was terrible coming at him, but like the throwing of the iPad, like the wearing the emotions on the sleeves, it's just, You're going through rough times right now. You're the captain of the ship.
I gotta disagree with you, right?
Okay.
I mentioned this earlier in our earlier episodes when we were looking at the season. When you decided to pay Daniel Jones and not pay Saquon, right? That means you are all in on Daniel Jones, and he is the heart and soul of the team. It's no longer Saquon. It's not Daboll. We will go as far as Daniel Jones. And so one of the things that I brought up, I questioned his heart.
Okay.
Right? I questioned his leadership ability to motivate the guys to play for him, right? Because that's what he needs to do, right? Last year, it was Saquon. And he's been loyal to the organization, and they didn't pay him.
Yeah.
Every player recognizes that.
Sure.
So the question is, will Daniel Jones have the leadership to take us where we want to go?
Sure.
You can't blame the coach, right? The quarterback is key. You paid him. He is the organization.
Yep.
Right? So will they follow him? And right now, that answer is no.
So my thing is, though, my issue is not with Daboll from a coaching standpoint. It's purely just when the guy comes off on the sideline, if you want to yell at him and scream at him or whatever, just wait until it's halftime. Don't be like sitting there slamming, screaming, and throwing the iPad like that.
You're telling me he's that soft? He's afraid of being yelled at?
Much
This is
about
football.
So maybe this is the coach in me a little bit. Okay, so let's say I'm coaching a high school game. Our quarterback goes and he throws an interception. He comes off the field, and I'm sitting there yelling and screaming at him, and I slam something at his feet. Do you think that kid is going to go back out? Now I get it. This is a lot different. That's a kid versus a man.
Exactly.
And he's getting paid big boy money. But I'm just looking at it purely from because I noticed this with Robert Saleh too as well. You are the captain of the ship, the head coach. People are always watching you. So like your reactions in times of crisis to me matter too. It's a minor thing to me. I just wish I didn't see him going so overboard emotionally with it. And I get it. It was a terrible play.
But that's the thing, right? Part of the reason why Daboll is so angry is at the decision making, right? Because guess what? There's a coach in his ear telling him what to do, right? Telling him what to look for, what to be prepared for, where to throw the ball. And he's still making mistakes the 5th year into his career. You brought up a young kid, 16, 17. This is a grown man that's getting $40 million to be a professional, to be the leader of men. So you can't be concerned or worried that my coach is yelling at me too much. Absolutely, because I made bad decisions. I made a bad decision, and now my coach is yelling at me. Oh, cry for me. No excuses. Grow up, be the leader, or guess what? The organization's got to make a decision and move on from him.
But again, he's not the first quarterback that's ever done that. But I don't want to stay on that point because to me, it's a minor thing in terms of
fair.
I just coaches. I think in general, like how you conduct yourself on the sideline, sometimes it does matter and it does play into the team's morale. My bigger thing with the Giants right now is I don't think Shane and Daboll, if you ask them, if you put them on a lie detector test or a crystal ball, and you ask them, did they really want to sign Jones last year? I don't think it was them. I think this was a decision from up top. I think it was Mara saying, listen, we drafted this guy. He looks like the prototypical Giant quarterback. We want to make this work. I really do believe that. Again, we'll never really know the
I don't disagree with you. I believe
but
that
I
is the
do
case.
believe that. And to your point about Daboll, maybe his frustration, maybe that's why his reaction kind of manifests like that, because he's sitting there, I didn't even want this guy. Like
deep down, I told you so.
They essentially bid against themselves.
There's no one else out there
Jones.
that was going to pay him $40 million.
And the bottom line is there's a lot of things. It's not just on Daniel Jones, right? There's a lot of things going wrong with the Giants right now.
Saquon represented 70% of the offensive production last year.
And you don't have him right now. So that's a huge thing too as well. But again, with all these other guys you brought in, you'd think things would change. My biggest issue with a guy like Jones, you talked about it. He got paid a lot of money. And okay, I never thought that Daniel Jones was a top 10 quarterback. But it's funny, I have a couple of friends who now all of a sudden are like very high on him after last year. I was the one who was, guys, give him patience. He hasn't really had good things around him. But where I draw my line now, and I'm getting somewhat tired, is if everything has to be perfect around you for you to succeed as a quarterback, then to me, you're just simply not that guy.
Exactly.
And you shouldn't be paid to the level that he's been paid at. See, Cowboys fans, just like I talked about Dak the week before, I'm saying it about Jones too. The man is not living up to the deal that he just signed. I'll call it out like I see it. But the
100%.
Giants across the board right now, really disappointing. I just didn't expect this, and it's not going to get any easier.
But just think about this, right? We're in a division with the Philadelphia Eagles. Look at their offensive line. Look at their defensive line.
know.
Look at their offensive weapon, right? Look at their weapon in the secondary.
Sure.
Right? You look at the Dallas Cowboys, right? You look at their running
Defensive
back.
line more so with the Eagles. Yeah, I got
defensive
you.
line
Yep,
as
yep.
well, defensive line.
Yep.
But you look at the Cowboys, right? You look at their offensive weapons,
Sure.
right? You look at their defensive weapons,
Sure.
right? Micah Parson, right? So ultimately, we're so far away from them offensively and defensively in terms of weapons that could be impact players, playmakers.
And
That's what we need to get to. That's what we have to
Yep.
compete against. And so you have to ask yourself, where does Daniel Jones rank? Is he better than Jalen Hurts? Is he better than Dak Prescott? Right?
No.
And then if that answer is no, and we don't have the weapons
At
on
best,
offense or
he's-
defense,
At best, he's what, the third best quarterback in the division?
at best,
Third?
right? And
Because Sam Howell just doesn't really have the body of work for us to really judge him. So I'm going to at least give Daniel Jones that respect.
100%.
So.
But we don't. Again, we're missing the weapons, and he's not making everyone else better. That's a problem.
Yeah, I hear you, man. But listen, we wanted to just keep it 100. I mean, we're both Giants fans, and it's not up to snuff, and it only gets harder from here. So I need to see some life. I need to see some.
Or it's gonna fall apart quickly. Hey,
It is.
Hey,
you
Drake-
might be in the Caleb sweepstakes.
Or I'm gonna say Drake May with the second overall pick.
Sure.
Start all over.
Yeah, I mean,
Start all over.
One way, the thing that stinks too, though, for them is that they are tied to him for the next 2 years. So even if you drafted a quarterback, you're still stuck with that number.
I'm okay with that.
On your salary.
I'm okay
cap.
with that.
But
Hey, we could trade him.
yeah, I mean, listen, that's possible.
Hey, guess
It's
what?
just,
Send
again,
him to Denver.
Guess what? Here's the problem, though. All the other teams are watching what we're watching, too. So I don't know what you're going to trade them for, but we'll see. We're being a little bit doom and gloom right now. But new segment, okay? We call it the first quarter report. Why? I'm not a math guy, but I was at least smart enough to break this down mathematically. The old football season used to be 16 games.
Yep.
So I still kind of look at it like that. So we're 4 games in. That's the first quarter of the season. Essentially, now what we can do is that last quarter, we can just be breaking down what we think is going to happen come playoff times because it's going into week 17. Most things are going to be decided at that point. But we got a cool little slate of topics to go through right now. In terms of the first quarter report, got 4 games in, got a decent amount of data, sample sizes. So, some teams that everybody was saying, oh my God, you're calling them frauds? I can't believe it. Now we've got some data that maybe proves that, or maybe even just a Sunday game this past, weekend that shows us that some teams still got some improving to do and something to show us. But give me in the NFC right now, and I think this is actually going to be fairly short and quick for us. Who's the best team in the NFC right now?
Hands down, the 49ers. At the end of the day, they don't lose with Brock Purdy as their quarterback.
So true.
Christian McCaffrey, oh my God.
Purdy
the things that
leading
he's
the
doing.
league right now in QBR. Leading the league in QBR.
Listen, and he makes the short,
Zero
tight
interceptions,
throws, zero
yep.
interceptions. His decision making
Yep.
is the difference, right? He's not turning over the ball.
Yep.
The coaching staff believes in him, and it's not that he's
100%.
dinking and dunking.
100%.
He's throwing it downfield.
Yep.
He's checking it down to Christian McCaffrey when the time presents itself. Again, 0 interceptions through 4 games, making great decision. When he starts and finishes the game, they win. And so 49ers, hands down, no questions asked, best team in the NFC.
I'm with you. The Eagles are 4-0, but I don't think they've looked as impressive as the 49ers. I think if they played right now, I would have the 49ers by at least a touchdown. For all the reasons you said. I mean, San Francisco, top to bottom. I talked about Buffalo before, being maybe in the AFC. There's no doubt in my mind, offensively, defensively, the 49ers are the most complete team, not only in the NFC, but I think in the NFL too as well. So I like them, and Christian McCaffrey is playing out of his mind right now. I mean, leading the league in rushing yards, tied for the league in rushing touchdowns. The only thing, and I've been saying this the last couple of weeks, that concerns me is just he's getting a lot of burn early on in the season. But I think that they're starting to slowly work Elijah Mitchell a little bit more into as well, using Debo in different games, okay, Ayuk, Kittle. It almost seems like for the 49ers, every game they play, it's going to be like a different stud each time, but you can rely on McCaffrey's performance.
100%.
So I'm with you. Best team in the AFC.
Where are you going with this?
Well, I kind of hinted at it before. And you know me, I'm not going to listen. It's one thing about picking the Super Bowl. I love me some Kansas City. But if I'm just going by the data and the facts, Buffalo checks all my boxes right now. Okay? I think they have the best win of any AFC team, beating the brakes off the Miami Dolphins, all right? I want my egg, by the way, too. I want some breakfast. You should have brought me a hard-boiled egg, all right? Josh Allen right now, I think, has a strong case for the MVP, just in terms of his passing statistics, okay, his QBR rating, his amount of touchdowns, and the fact that he has a bigger win. So it's like, for me, it's a little bit of like he's got stats, and he's got probably the most impressive win on the year. I like Buffalo offensively, defensively, leading the league or tied for second in the league, I believe, in sacks too as well. You know me, that's a very important statistic to me. I think that's how you get to the Super Bowl, get pressure on other teams' quarterbacks. And then, again, running back who's 7th right now in rushing yards. Stephon Diggs leading the league in receiving touchdowns. Gabe Davis starting to wake up now too a little bit. They're using him more this year too as well. Offensive line's playing well. Oh, and this is all without. I made sure to hit on this point. This is all without. What's that guy's name who's been on the pup list? Von Miller. Not even playing, and they're doing this. So you bring Von back.
Let's make sure he comes back the same way.
Maybe they sit him even longer.
We gotta see him play.
Rest, big boy. We're taking care of things right now. But I like Buffalo. Who you got?
So listen, this is going to be a little bit of a surprise, I think, right? I'm on the Ravens train, and they're winning. They're 3-1.
Yeah, but be more. Look at his T-shirt.
Listen. At the end of the day, right? Kansas City, baby, Kansas City.
Just like that, B-boy. He leaves you like a cheap date.
No. Slow down. Here's the difference. My concern with the Ravens right now is 100% health. Is 100% health.
They're putting a lot on Lamar.
And he's being Superman, right? And so much love, much respect, right? So
the
like
defense is playing well too.
Defense is playing well. So my honorable second, right, is the Ravens, right? But due to their injury factor, I had to go with the Kansas City Chiefs, and here's why. The Kansas City Chiefs have been winning ugly, right? First game, they didn't have Kelsey, right? They didn't have Chris Jones. They didn't have Taylor Swift, right?
They did not have Taylor Swift. That's the MVP right now.
She didn't show up.
Undefeated with Taylor Swift at games.
That is true.
Undefeated with Taylor Swift at games.
That is true. So overall, I gotta pay the respect to the Kansas City Chiefs. They're 3-1 now.
Can't be mad at that.
They're gonna let's see what they do in the second quarter. But they have a history of making the AFC Championship game. I was concerned week 1, right? But guess what? Week 2 went against them. I'm not gonna do it again. I'm gonna pay them their respects, because if their wide receivers get better and show some growth, they're gonna be dangerous. But that defense,
it's good.
That defense is really good.
Still 6th in scoring right now.
6th in scoring, and that defense can carry them to the playoffs and through the playoffs to buy the offense some time. That division has fell apart between Denver, between the Raiders, and the Chargers can't get right. So with all of that being said, I see the Chiefs 12-5, right?
They're winning that division.
They're going to win the division. They're going to be in the hunt for the best record. So if it has to go through Kansas City, right, count them in for the AFC Championship game against the Baltimore Ravens, and, they'll decide.
It's funny that you say that, too, because, again, I mentioned him on the last show, Nick Wright, one of my favorite guys I watch. He calls the Super Bowl now, the playoffs, he calls it the Arrowhead Invitational, which I think is great. It's funny. But
five in a row, you got to pay their respect.
Yeah, the AFC goes through the Chiefs. There's no doubt about it. Like, if you want to get to the promised land, you are going to have to go through Kansas City one way or another. I am glad you brought them up, too, because another guy who's really starting to shape up on that team, Isaiah Pacheco, man.
Oh, yeah. They're giving him the ball.
They are giving him the ball. And I think Andy Reid is starting to realize, like, we don't have quite the weapons that we've had in the past on the outside. We have Kelsey, but teams are starting to come in and go, we're at least going to take this guy away. Let's take him away.
Like what you should do with Stephon Diggs.
That's what you should do, yes, with a great player, okay? But Pacheco, man runs angry. He runs hard. And he's starting to figure out like how to play within that offense too as well. Getting involved in the receiving game too as well. I just genuinely like watching the guy play.
Listen, I think Andy Reid is evolving, right? Yeah. He is a former offensive lineman, and so I think he's a
smart guy.
Smart guy. I think he's recognizing the receivers aren't where they're supposed to be. They're not fully separating. So I think we're going to see a morphing of their offense. Incorporate the run game a little bit more.
Play action.
Play action. The receivers will develop their confidence confidence will get there. They'll learn the offensive system,
Sure.
and they'll be there at the end of the year. It's the reverse of what happened last year.
Yeah, I like it.
Last year, they were young
Yep.
on defense,
Yep. And
young
they got better
secondary.
as the
They got
season-
better
yep.
as the season went on.
Yep.
So let's, like I said, I got to give the nod to them because of that coaching staff and their past history.
I honestly can't get mad at you because, again, even though I'm a Giants fan, it's hard to not, like, just watch Kansas City and appreciate them and like them.
Agreed.
You know, I like it, but I think the AFC, again, is going to be interesting again this year. So, again, I said worst, but, again, whether this is worst or most disappointing team so far, starting the NFC. You want to go first or you want me to go first?
You go first. You go first.
Well, this is not really any secret for me. In the NFC, it's without a doubt, it's the New York Football Giants coming off of last year, okay? Again, I already said it. They went 9-8 with a team that was not anywhere near the level of that talent. You know,
Yep.
They overachieved. They brought in a lot of new pieces this year. You just thought they were going to take that next step. And again, I know they haven't been 100% healthy early, but it just looks like they haven't been prepared at the start of any one of these games. Even the Cardinals game that they won. I mean, the start of that game, did they look prepared?
Yeah.
They made great adjustments, but so far, I mean, it's the New York Giants without a doubt for me. It's been really upsetting. How about you?
Listen, the Chicago Bears have
Yeah.
been a dumpster fire, right?
We had them both, I think, third in the NFC North, right? And then the
I
parade.
think I had them second.
Might have,
right?
yeah.
Now listen, Justin Fields showed some great signs last year.
Played a great game.
Almost rushed for 1,000 yards, right? Touchdowns, throwing the ball. Like he with a terrible offensive line, he showed a lot of potential, right?
Yeah.
That potential has not manifested this season,
In
right?
wins.
They have good offensive weapons, tight end, receiver. They got DJ Moore. I expected a bump up. I expected an elevation in that offense, and he hasn't been running. And overall, that team has just been a disappointment on offense. It's been horrible on defense, right?
They do have the 2 draft picks coming up this year. So it'll be
But you know
interesting.
what? At the end of the day, right now, I look at Chicago, fire everyone, right? General manager, right?
Scorched
All
earth.
the coaches, right? Start over, trade Justin Fields because they've lost 14 games in a row.
Sure.
And there's nothing going right. And it looks like that all belief in the coaching staff has dissipated, right? And when that happens, there's going to be an internal implosion.
Okay. I mean, listen, I think both teams obviously are not performing well. So, I mean, it's obviously Giants or the Bears are not having the season they came in this year that a lot of people and fans thought they were going to have. How about the AFC?
The Denver Broncos, right? Sean Payton, you talked a lot of smack. You threw coaches underneath the bus,
Sure.
and you had to beat the winless Bears to get a win, right? Absolute disaster. You want to talk about egg in someone's face? Like I said before, Sean Payton just shut up and coach and try to win a game or two.
Sure.
But that organization, that team, all the tough love from Sean Payton has gotten them nowhere.
Yeah.
Right? So at this point, I think those players want the coaches to show up and make them better to win games because all that hard work, all that tough love that Sean Payton gave them hasn't translated into wins. Now, Russell Wilson has played better,
Yep.
but guess what?
He has played
Whether,
better.
the defense has been disappointing,
It has.
right? But guess what? Who picked the defensive coordinator? That was Sean Payton.
Yep.
So, overall, AFC, the Denver Broncos, my disappointing team.
So this should come as no surprise or shock to you. For me, it's the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, part of it is, based on my preseason prediction. I had
MVP?
Joe Burrow winning the MVP. I had the Bengals going and winning the Super Bowl. That obviously looks like it's not going to happen. My disappointment, though, with them is it's not so much the team. It's more the handling of the Burrow situation. Clearly, he's not healthy. And clearly, he didn't get the time necessary in the preseason. Cincinnati, I don't really understand what you're doing right now. You're putting what is now the highest paid quarterback in the league, you're putting him in a tremendous amount of risk. If you don't win this next game, you have to really think about just shutting it down with him because he's clearly not healthy. And dropping back 50 times to throw the ball with him is not the answer, too. Because forget about overcompensation with the calf and something else happening. What about just protecting the rest of his body? All the other injuries. He doesn't have mobility. He clearly is not moving like himself. You're already 1-3. You're close to falling out of this race in general. If you lose this next game to Arizona, which I think is a winnable game, but Arizona's no slouch. We've seen them
They
be
play
competitive
with a lot of heart.
in all their games.
Extremely
they do.
competitive.
Yeah. I really think the Bengals have to think about how they're handling the situation. If they lose to Arizona, I strongly consider them sitting Burrow, at least for the foreseeable future.
So here's a part of the issue, right? They didn't want to sit him the first 2 games because they were divisional games, right? So that was a big problem. Second, Joe Burrow doesn't have a cannon, right? The way he throws the ball, he needs his lower body, and he doesn't have access to that right now. So that's why he can't get the ball downfield.
He's a guy that gets better as the season goes along. You always see him; he warms up.
Agreed, but again, he can't just rely on his arm. It has to be the overall mechanics, and his legs are a big part of that. And he just does not have that foundation right now. And they're not running the ball 30 times a game. So I'm, questioning the coaching staff when you have your best player hurt and you're trying to, have him throw the ball 50 times a game. That's just unacceptable, right? That is bad coaching. He's hurt, right? You're not putting him in a position to succeed. So they're not making the playoffs. You might as well rest him and ensure that he's ready for next year and the future. Because what you don't want,
way too big of an investment.
100%. What you don't want is him to get an Achilles injury, right? And then now he's out for a full year and you're jeopardizing next season.
No, listen, I'm 100% with you. I think they have a lot of decisions to make based on the outcome of this weekend. This is just across both the conferences. Surprise team.
The Houston Texans, right? C.J. Stroud,
took the words right
Ohio State quarterback, right? They don't have game. They don't play well. He's changing that narrative. That team plays with a lot of heart. I love the offensive scheme. They're following his leadership. They play with toughness. The Houston Texans, hats off to you guys, right? You made a good decision. Now, listen, I was questioning their move. They picked C.J. Stroud and then traded up with Arizona to get Will Anderson, right? To have 2 picks in the top 5. I couldn't believe that. Well, guess what? They're not going to be at the bottom, and so it looks like a great decision. And and here's the thing. Here's my biggest surprise. They have 4 starting offensive linemen out, and they're doing this. I can't believe it. So I picked against them twice now. Not going to do it again.
Well, listen, they're a feisty team. They're young. They don't just lay down for anybody. They embody a lot of their young coach, D'Amico Ryans, who was formerly of the San Francisco 49ers. So they seem to be taking on that personality. Young talent. I'm with you 100%. That was going to be my pick all the way. C.J. Stroud right now, 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Phenomenal start to
Top 5 in the league.
Yeah, man. And then Tank Dell, Nico Collins. Nico Collins, I think, is top 5 receiver in the league right now, just in terms of overall statistics. So, I mean, they've got some nice stuff. They have the young running back, Damian Pierce, too, as well. So, I mean, I did not see that team already being tied for the division lead in NFC South. I thought it was clearly going to be the Jags running away. So I'm with you on the Texans. Do you have a rookie of the year so far for the first quarter? 4 names.
I'm gonna stay consistent. It's going with C.J. Stroud, right? Top 5 in the league in passing yards. They're 2-2, right, with the record.
Tied for the division lead.
Tied for the division league. So you got to give it to C.J. Stroud. Who are you going with?
I got to go with, and Stroud was my close pick, but I got to go with Bijan Robinson. Sometimes when you see it, you just know. I just see otherworld electric type ability. De'Vion Shane, though, is starting to climb up that list, too, as well, the Miami Dolphins running back. 2 back-to-back stellar weeks. But Bijan right now just looks different. He's already top 5 in all major statistics other than touchdowns for running backs. And you had even said that you already had
him as a running back. Just give him the ball.
Give that man the ball. He is a monster.
Absolutely.
MVP so far, 4 weeks.
Listen, I'm going to stay consistent, right? Lamar Jackson, he's doing everything for his team, right? He has over 700 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns. Then he has 4 rushing touchdowns.
We call it MVP / first quarter stud.
First quarter, first quarter stud. My stud for the first quarter is different.
Oh, okay. All right.
He's my MVP.
Okay,
I'm going to keep him as my MVP.
All right, gotcha.
You want to know my stud?
Sure.
Christian McCaffrey. Oh my God! Because MVP only goes to quarterbacks, all right?
Unfortunately, that's fair.
Right?
You're right.
But my stud of the quarter, without a doubt, Christian McCaffrey.
Okay, so you went MVP Lamar. I'm going MVP Josh Allen. I mentioned all of his major statistics before. Top 5 in touchdowns, top 5 in yards, top 5 in QBR rating. Has, to me, the most impressive victory of any quarterback to date. Okay, I'm going with him on the MVP. And, man, we're agreeing too much. But, again, I have to agree with you again. The first quarter stud for me was also Christian McCaffrey. You simply can't.
Undeniable.
If they actually gave the MVP to somebody outside of a quarterback, Christian McCaffrey would be the MVP of the league right now.
If I'm not mistaken, 600 total yards, right? 450
a little over.
rushing.
Yeah,
150
six rushing
receiving,
touchdowns.
6 rushing touchdowns, 1 receiving touchdown.
Yeah.
He's on pace for over 2,500 total yards from scrimmage.
Yeah.
That's just unheard of.
Okay. Yeah, no, listen, he is tearing it up. My final question for you on this one. After 4 games, first quarter Super Bowl report, who would you pick right now?
Listen, I'm sticking with the Ravens and 49ers. What about you?
I got 49ers versus the Bills. That wraps up our first brand new segment, the first quarter. We'll be right back after this quick break. What's up, everybody? We're back. It's Run It Back. It's the final segment right here, so you know it's time for our weekly picks, okay? But before we get into that, a lot of good games, obviously.
Absolutely.
Week 4, okay? Things are starting to round into form. We did our first quarter stud, but how about just your stud of the week 4?
Again, I got 2 honorable mentions.
Okay.
Right? Christian McCaffrey, over 100 rushing yards, 71 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns.
Okay.
Highly impressive.
Yep.
Right? So honorable mention. Next honorable mention, you're going to love this guy.
Okay.
Puka Nacua.
Yeah.
Right? 9 receptions.
My guy.
Over 160 yards.
First touchdown,
1
too.
touchdown.
He got his first
so,
career touchdown.
Right? So honorable mention.
Okay, that's fair.
But I got to give it to Stephon Diggs. 120 yards, 6 receptions, 3 TDs, and he dominated by himself, right, the Dolphins. So much respect, much love. Stephon Diggs, stud of the week.
All right, listen, I can't hate it. My man went off this Sunday. Dolphins had no answer for him. I'll give you one honorable mention, okay? My honorable mention here is Khalil Mack. Now, a lot of people thought that this guy was kind of like asleep the first 3 weeks, but oh my gosh.
The first 3 years?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Past 3 years.
Yeah, past 3 years. Yeah, there you go. Because the first 3 years, he was an animal, man. One of the best defensive players in the league. But this man clearly is awake, okay? They apparently awoke a sleeping giant. The man had 6 sacks, okay? So he went from 0 to 6.
Shy of the record, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, Derek Thomas. God rest his soul. Great player for the Kansas City Chiefs back in the day. But yes, 6 sacks. My man tore it up. I mean, almost single-handedly helped bring that game to the Chargers, which is a game they absolutely needed because they're probably more or less playing for a wild card right now. So they got to pick every game that they can get, especially starting 0-2. But he is not my stud of the week. My stud of the week.
Don't do it.
My stud of the week.
It. Don't
my
you
stud
dare
of the
do
week is Josh
Allen. This guy.
Josh Allen. 320 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, and key thing here, because this guy likes to harp on his decision making, no turnovers. Efficiently ran.
When
the
your
offense.
wide receiver gets 3 touchdowns for 120 yards, he's the stud, not the quarterback. It's not all about the QB.
It's not all about the quarterback. I agree, and that is something that I do want to actually talk about in the future shows. All right, it is definitely not all about the quarterback. However, for this offense going to perform, his decision making, how he runs the offense, is crucial to how they perform. And I mean, A+ game right there, especially when you look at his first game. And everyone's talking about Miami. Don't you remember the egg on my face, all this stuff? No egg on my face this week, people.
He's still bringing up the Bills,
oh,
guys.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to bring them up. Yeah.
Hey, we're going to run it back, and let's see if the Bills stay consistent.
Yeah, that's fair.
Let's see if they're your their mid-year, right, team. Let's see what happens.
I just want to point something out, though, with all this, because this is even getting traction and attention at my school. My kids are even coming up to me in class going, Mr. Mallory, that was a pretty good pick on those Dolphins there. Maybe they're not who we thought they were. But my co-host, points out it is still very early. It's still only 4 games into the season, so a lot could change. All right? Who knows what we'll be saying at that first half report.
Half report.
But my stud of the week, Josh Allen, he balled out. Now, time for some picks. All right, first of all, gotta give me a handshake, my man. Listen.
Here we go again.
Listen.
Here we're again.
11-5. I mean, you're improving every week. It's really impressive. It really is. And again, just like the old 16-game schedule, you go 11-5 most times. You win a division. But.
He's got me by a couple games, America.
But, guys.
Got me by a couple games.
Here's the problem.
The Patriots didn't do their job.
11-5 is not quite as good as 13-3.
The Patriots did not do their job.
That's what your man, the champ, all right, Mr. Mallory, picked right here. He goes 13-3 on the week. He went 11-5. So valiant effort. Listen, shook your hand. Maybe better luck next week. That brings.
It's not how you start. It's how you finish.
It's very true. It's very true, and it's still early. But through 4 weeks right now, career records on picks. I will say this: we both are actually doing very good just in general picking the games. But the champ right now, winner of 3 weeks in a row. All right. Some people call that a winning streak. All right. 40-24.
Really?
40-24. Have you never seen Major League? Lou Brown, he talks to the team, get the Indians all fired up.
I get it. If you're not first, you're last. But guess what? It's only the first quarter.
It is only the first quarter, so it's still early, but I'm going to enjoy it right now. I mean,
I think he sounds like a Cowboys fan.
Oh, stop
Win
all
the
that.
beginning of the season,
No.
choke in the playoffs.
You know what? Maybe I have to keep my trash talk somewhat down. But 40-24 for me on the season, and you 37-27. So both double-digit games over 500 on our straight-up picks. That's pretty good. But you excited? You ready to get into some picks of this week?
Let's do it.
All right, man. We got week 5 right here. All right. Pull up your cheat codes on your phone so you can find a way to beat me.
America, I'm digital. He still uses paper.
It's old school, baby. We got to be who we are.
Thursday night football?
Thursday night football. We got Chicago at Washington. You can inject some fantasy stats here too, or some fantasy thoughts, guys you like in matchups too as well here.
Well, listen, I'm sure America, you guys benched, right? Justin Fields, right? This week. Right, he might have a similar performance, so he might get you 20 to 25 points. Right, so I would encourage you to play Justin Fields.
Yeah, me too.
He should have a good game. I think he's going to run the ball a lot, so don't be surprised if he has between 80 and 100 yards. I'm high on Justin Fields for this Thursday night game. And regarding the overall game,
sure,
I'm with the Commanders. Ultimately, what they're doing on offense, right, with Eric Bieniemy, they're throwing the rock. Guess what? The Chicago Bear defense can't stop anyone. That Roquan Smith trade was an absolute disaster.
Yeah,
right.
Paying dividends for Ravens right now.
And then, so listen, I'm rocking with the Commanders. They're 2-2, and I don't see the Bears winning anytime soon.
Yeah, unfortunately for me, it's the Bears defense. I have no faith in the Bears defense to really stop anybody. It's at Washington too, short week, and again, another thing about Washington, fantasy guy and then just good player in general. Brian Robinson is quietly one of the best running backs in the league right now.
Okay.
One of the top leaders in touchdowns, yards as well too. I expect him to have a big game against Chicago. Yeah, I like Washington in this game.
All right.
The receiver too, McLaurin actually hasn't been doing bad either too as well, so he might not be a bad.
He always does well against the Eagles, so if he's playing the Eagles, that's an automatic start. He's going to get you 12 to 15 points.
Yeah, I got you. So, I mean, even though, with him playing the Bears, anybody who's playing against the Bears, if they've got a stud on their team, I'm starting. Starting whoever's going against the Bears. Interesting game, okay. This is Jacksonville. It says Jacksonville at Buffalo, but this game's in London.
International game.
Yeah, now remember, too, a little thing with this is the Jaguars have already been in London for an entire week.
Yep.
So their bodies have somewhat adapted. They're used to the time change. Could that play into the factor? You want to go first? You want me to go first?
Listen, I'm sure we all know where you're going. Where the Buffalo Bills?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Buffalo.
Okay.
Listen, I think that while what's that called? Jet lag. While jet lag might be a factor, I think Buffalo right now is starting to figure out who they are, find an identity, and I think Jacksonville still has games that they can make up on the back end of their schedule. Mm-hmm. I like Buffalo in this game. Yeah, I do. From a fantasy perspective, Jacksonville's defense actually has played fairly well in terms of the turnovers. Turnover as a stat. You keep talking about Josh Allen and his decision making, so that will be an interesting matchup to analyze. But yeah, I like Buffalo. And if you got Diggs, start him. If you got Cooks, start him. If you got Allen, start him too as well. Gabe Davis, I'd be 50-50 on. He's kind of like every other game. He'll do something great.
Okay.
But I like Buffalo.
So within this game, normally I would say this is a great upset spot for Jacksonville to beat the Buffalo Bills.
He's
right?
learning America.
They've stayed in London, right, for the
Mr.
week.
Mallory picked them.
The Bills are coming off of an impressive win against the Dolphins. Great letdown spot here. But ultimately, the Bills have been winning with the running game. If they keep that consistent, if Josh doesn't turn over the ball, I got to give my nod to them. And I will pick the Bills.
Okay.
In a close game, tight game, 21-17.
All right. Houston at Atlanta. It's a little feisty game between the young and up-and-comers. Atlanta's actually got a pretty good defense here, too. It's at Atlanta. Who you like?
I told you I'm rocking with the Texans, right? I like their heart. I like their skill base. And so ultimately, C.J. Stroud can throw the ball down the field. Ridley cannot. As much as I like Bijan.
Ritter.
Yeah.
He had a tough game.
Yeah, so I think the Texans are going to slow down Bijan from a reception standpoint. I would look at him over in his receiving yards in the particular game, but I'm rocking with the Texans. 24-14.
Okay. I will I'll take the Texans in this game too. I think that for the reasons actually that you pointed out, I just trust the quarterback.
Did I just convince you to pick the Texans?
I mean, listen, this game
I'm making them go first, America.
Kind of 50-50
Making them go
for
first,
me.
America.
Kind of 50-50 for me. You're not going to like that on the next pick. But I like Houston. I think they just have their quarterback has just shown a little bit more of an ability to get the ball into the hands of their playmakers. Houston's defense hasn't played bad. Now, Atlanta's defense actually hasn't played bad either.
Yeah.
And Bijan obviously is a stud. But yeah, I mean, this league, it just seems like when you have two young teams, it's going to come down to the quarterback play. So that's why I'm going to trust Houston.
Okay.
And I like that.
Me, America.
I did. But I can lead off on the next one if you'd like. Carolina at Detroit. Oh, by the way, Houston and Atlanta, you got any, I would start Nico Collins, okay, 100%. Stroud, obviously. Bijan, I think Bijan will probably have a good game too as well there. I'd go Bijan every time. Carolina at Detroit. Don't worry, I'll lead off.
Easy pick, America.
Yeah. So Detroit clearly showed right now they're the class of the NFC North. They absolutely drubbed the Packers on Thursday night. Defense ranked number 1 against the run right now. So that is a legitimate defense, okay? I like them in this game, and I like them fairly big. Carolina obviously had some improvement this past week, but I don't even think they've eclipsed 20 points in a game this season. I think that the talent is just too much on Detroit's offensive side. Montgomery's going off right now. Hopefully Gibbs can go and have like his first touchdown and like breakout type of game. I still think there's more ability than what he's shown. I like Goff. I like Amon-Ra St. Brown if he's healthy and he plays. I like the Lions big in this game. And Carolina, I mean, outside of Thielen, I wouldn't see anybody for fantasy.
Again, we're on the both on Detroit here. Something that I would tell you to pay attention to: Jameson Williams.
Yeah, he's playing
coming
well.
back from suspension early, and he's going to be in this game. I think he's going to be hungry. Jared Goff plays extremely well at home, so I agree with you. This is going to be a big game, a big win. 34-17 Lions.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if it was a substantial difference between the two teams. Tennessee at Indianapolis. I think Richardson is back here too.
He is back.
I think he's back.
He's back.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You want to go?
You going with the Colts?
It's interesting because after watching what Tennessee did to Cincinnati, I'm kind of torn here. But I'm going to go with Indy. All right. I'm going to go with Indy. I like, again, another team. I thought the AFC South was going to not be good this year. Clearly, it's competitive. Okay,
Yep.
You already had one of the young teams take a win from the Jags, okay, and the Texans. The Colts going to beat Baltimore was a huge surprise to me. They kind of came back down to earth this past week against the Rams. I think this is a low-scoring game. I don't really like this fantasy-wise for anyone. I like Richardson just because I feel like he'll rush at least for a touchdown and his rushing attempts alone. But I'll take Indy in a close one. I'll say like 19-16.
I am going with the Tennessee Titans. Okay, so we disagree on this one.
You've got to pick up some ground. So.
Listen, Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill, professionals at the quarterback and the running back position. I think Richardson is young. They're coming off of a heartbreaking loss to the Rams. Okay, so I think that Tennessee is going to step up. They're going to play well indoors. They got Hopkins within this game. And so I think it is going to be somewhat of a fairly close game. 24-18 Tennessee Titans.
Okay. Indianapolis defense actually hasn't played bad either, too. They actually have the leading tackler, and I'm just drawing a blank on his name.
Leonard,
linebacker.
right?
No, so well, if you're talking about Leonard Floyd, he's now on Buffalo, right?
He's on Buffalo. Yeah, it's I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. I was looking at his name earlier, and it just escaped me. I don't think we need to spend too much time on this game. We talked a lot about this team earlier, and I think this game is fairly New York Giants at Miami.
Oh, this one is going to be disappointing. Listen, the Dolphins just got beat down by the Bills. They're going to come in upset, pissed off, and so I think it's going to be a super high-scoring game. I think, unfortunately, we're looking at 41-24 Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, I have to.
Tua is going to throw for over 300 yards.
I have to agree with you based on the way the Giants' defense has played this season. This is just a terrible matchup. I see Miami putting up at least 30. If you have Dolphins, start them. I'd go Shane. I would go Tua. I would go Tyreek Hill. Waddle, you said, is going to be out a couple of weeks.
No, Waddle's back.
Oh, Waddle's back. Okay.
Waddle's
so,
back.
I mean, if you've got Miami Dolphins, start them. I think Saquon might be back for the Giants. That'd be like the only worst.
That's going to be a game-time decision, right? Game-time decision.
So, we'll see. But, yeah, so we both like Miami there. And if you got fantasy guys, I would start them. Any studs for Miami. New Orleans at New England.
That's an interesting game.
Yeah. You took the lead on this one.
I could go with this one. This is going to be an ugly game, very ugly game, and in 90% of the time, I would be going with the New England Patriots here, right? But I'm going to go with the New Orleans Saints. Okay. They got a good defense. Right now, the Patriots have to prove to me that they know what they're doing on offense, and they're going to be able to score consistently.
Sure.
So they lost their star defensive end in the Cowboys game.
Matthew Judon, yeah, they did.
So I'm concerned for their rush.
Yep.
I'm concerned for them scoring. I think
Top
this
10
is
in
good.
sacks too, I believe.
They were.
Yeah.
So
he was Judon, yeah.
So I think this is going to be a field goal game. So a real ugly game. I think 15-12 New Orleans Saints.
Okay. I want to pick New England because they're at home. I really do. But I can't unsee what I've seen with them on the offensive side of the ball. And I know the Saints have a competitive defense. And I just think the difference is the Saints just have more playmakers. They're going to find some ways to make some plays in that game and score some points. I think it's relatively low scoring. But yeah, I like the Saints. Our guy, production in the back, actually, I believe, has Alvin Kamara on one of his fantasy teams. So,
He does.
And I think Alvin Kamara had a good opening week, to come out after sitting for the first.
Got a lot of dump
first
offs.
3 games.
Got a lot of dump offs.
So great. I mean,
PPR.
take a guy like Kamara. I think he'll do well in this game. Anybody else on the Saints? I mean, maybe
Chris Olave.
Yeah, sure. And then that one kid, the young kid, Rashid Shaheed, I think his name is, or something like that. He's been pretty promising too, as well.
He can stretch the defense.
He can stretch, yeah. But I would say the guys that are the most sure bets, Kamara, Olave, they'll get their numbers. I don't like anybody on New England. So, yeah, I'm taking New Orleans as well. Baltimore at Pittsburgh. Want me to lead or you want me to go?
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. I think this is going to be a tight game. I think it's going to be close. But in the end, I have to go with what I've seen. And Pittsburgh's offense has just been anemic. Go on top of that, the fact that Kenny Pickett is out. I mean, again, Matt Canada, I believe, is a new OC this year. So I think it's 2 years. Okay.
2 years or so.
So maybe Mason Rudolph, who knows? Maybe he ends up being better. But I like the way Baltimore's playing both offensively and defensively right now. I'm going to take Baltimore. Always love Lamar when it comes to fantasy. Zay Flowers might have himself a heck of a game too, looking at what Nico Collins was able to do to Pittsburgh last week. So I'll go with B. Moore.
I think Mitchell Trubisky might be starting this game, But I'm going.
Oh, it's Trubisky. You're right.
Trubisky,
Yes,
yeah.
you're right.
So I'm listen. AB Moore. I'm rocking with B Moore. Lamar Jackson. He's Superman right now. He's doing everything. The Pittsburgh Steelers have a great rush. This is going to be a hard-fought game, but I think the Steelers' defense is going to fall apart. I think the deficiencies in the Steelers' offense are going to show up. It's going to be a close game, 24-17, Baltimore Ravens.
Okay.
Lamar rushes for over 100 yards.
Yeah, I think Lamar, you always take him if you have him in fantasy. Philadelphia at the Los Angeles Rams.
Ooh, good game.
Yeah,
really
lead
good
off.
game.
You lead off this one.
They've been winning ugly, right? The Rams have been very surprising on defense. They've actually been playing extremely well.
Okay.
But the Eagles have a veteran offensive line, so they're going to know how to handle Aaron Donald.
Okay.
So I think A.J. Brown is going to have a huge game, right? 8 catches, 100-plus yards. But
Cooper Kupp back this game too, I believe.
Cooper Kupp is back. So I see some scoring in this game.
Sure, I
Cooper
agree
Kupp
with you.
and Puka Nacua. So a little bit of a high scoring.
Especially with the Eagles secondary.
Eagles
They
secondary.
can get pressure, that's one thing, but
31-27 Philadelphia Eagles.
yeah, I like Philly too as well. Again, it's just I picked them to win the division. They haven't looked perfect, but they just keep winning games. They can get after the quarterback. They can run the ball. 2 excellent things to have if you were trying to compete late into January and possibly February. So I like Philly. Jalen Hurts is a must-start almost anytime you play him. A.J. Brown, obviously, too. DeAndre Swift is tearing it up right now, too. Second in the league in rushing yards.
I hope he stays healthy.
Yeah, that's the big thing with him.
Yeah.
If he stays healthy right now, I mean, he looks
Great
he looks
pickup
great.
by Howie Roseman.
Yeah, no, I mean, he does everything that I wish the Giants would do in terms of drafting and personnel decisions. I might hate the team because I love the Giants, but I love the way they do business. They're doing great things over there. I like Philly, but I do think this is high scoring. I like Puka. I don't know if I'd start Kupp right away just because it's first game back. I always like to wait and see with guys like that.
Start him.
Kyron Williams too as well.
Yeah, he's been
Kyron
impressive.
Williams
He's
has
been
been
very
doing well.
impressive the first
He had a very good week last week. But yeah, I like Philadelphia. Like 34-28, something like that.
Okay.
This is a tough one. Cincinnati at Arizona.
Joey B.
I guess I'll take the lead on this one. This is not a game I want to pick. This is probably the last time I'm going to do it, but I'm going to go with the Bengals, okay? Because I figure you're starting Burrow all this time, all right? If you can't beat the Cardinals right now, to me, that's kind of it. I probably won't pick the Bengals again, and I'm very interested to see what they'll do, how that outcome goes. But I got to feel like if Cincinnati can find a way to beat any team, it's the Cardinals. They have been playing tough, but again, playing tough, but still losing most of their games. If Cincinnati has any shot at getting their season back on track, they have to go and win a game like this. I like Cincinnati. I don't think it's high scoring. I think they win on the backs of their defense. I think it's going to be a heavy mixing game. So fantasy guys, if you have Mixon, start them. The Cardinals are 24th against both the run and the pass. So I think the Bengals can put up points and yards against them if they have a good game plan. I see a heavy mixing game, and I see the Bengals pulling out a close one like 21-18.
Okay. I am going with the Arizona Cardinals.
I figured you were.
All right. I've been impressed by their head coach, right? Even though they're on the lower end of the overall defense, right? They've shown a lot of heart. They've played well in games. They've been in games. If I'm not mistaken, 3 out of the 4 games they've led at half.
Yep.
At the end of the day, I'm okay going with the Cardinals right now because Joey B and the Bengals have to prove to me that they could do it, that they could throw the ball deep. And right now, I don't see it. They haven't proven to be consistent within the run. So I have to go with the Arizona Cardinals. They're at home. They're playing inspired. They play with a lot of heart. They could score offensively. Running game, Hollywood Brown. They have speed and more. So, you know what? I'm thinking it's who has the ball last.
Okay.
I think it's going to be 24-21 Arizona Cardinals.
All right. I like it. New York Jets at Denver Broncos.
Swifties.
The Nathaniel Hackett Bowl.
Revenge.
Yep.
Your boy Sean Payton, right? Your boy Sean Payton. Listen, hey, I'm rocking with the Swifties. I'm rocking with Zach Wilson. I think this is listen. Sometimes in football, it's personal. It's real personal,
Sure.
and I think this is one of those games, right? When you attack a fellow coach, right, and you give up 70 points, right, within a season, I think the Jets look to make a statement within this game. I think the Jets are going to dominate within this game.
Okay.
28-7.
Wow.
28-7 New York Jets in making a statement and shutting up Sean Payton.
That's almost as hot of a take as questioning if the Dolphins are for real or not. I'm not going to lie. 28-7 right there.
3 touchdowns by Zach Wilson.
Wow. Okay, so you're in a breakout game. So, I agree with you on the outcome. I do think the Jets are going to win this game. I don't think it's going to be quite like that. I actually think it's going to be more on the lower scoring side.
Okay.
Just because I don't know if the Jets... Again, was that just
They're going to run it up. They're going to run it up.
Maybe, listen, if they do that, if they win by the score that you just said, I would sit there and call you like Nostradamus. That'd be a fantastic pick. But I do like the Jets in this game.
We're going to lead off with this game starting episode 7.
Simply because the way their offense looked at the end of last game, combined with the way their defense has played. Again, Denver, great. You beat Chicago. I mean, Chicago has one of the worst defenses.
I said they had to.
Yeah, so they had to go and win that game. But, I mean, yeah, I just think their luck runs out here. So I'm with you. I'm going to pick the Jets. I don't like this game fantasy-wise, really, for anybody. Maybe Russell Wilson. Maybe Garrett Wilson. That's about the 2 guys that I would like in this game.
Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall.
Jameel McLaughlin, this young running back that now replaced Javonte Williams because he just got injured. Watch out for this guy. I think he could actually have a pretty good game. And he had pretty nice numbers when he came in the last game.
I disagree. The Jets' defense are going to shut him down.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Personal.
But we're both on the Jets. Kansas City at Minnesota. Pretty cut and dry there. I'm going to take Kansas City.
You need to know where I'm going with it?
Well, I mean, I hope. He's got to wear the shirt now. He's sucking up to you, Mahomes.
Hey, he's my guy. He's my guy.
He's got the
You
Kansas
made
City.
Me nervous.
If anything, you should be wearing a Baltimore shirt, right? That's the team.
They got to get healthy. Hey, be more. I got you back. But you got to get healthy.
Yeah.
Right? OBJ. Come on, man. Let's do it.
I assume you're going Kansas City here, too?
Kansas City, absolutely, all the way.
Yeah, at Minnesota. I mean, Minnesota's defense can't stop a nosebleed. I like Isaiah Pacheco to run all up over them. I think Kansas City's defense does well against Minnesota's offense. Although I will say, Justin Jefferson could be a problem. He's a problem for any team, but...
I think so.
Yeah, KC all day.
17-24.
Yeah, I like KC in this game. Here's the game. Game of the week right here. Dallas at San Fran, baby.
Who them boys?
Who you got?
Them boys?
Who
Hey,
you
listen.
got?
Hey, no question here. All right. I told you that Dak Prescott's got to step up, right? He's got to lead the 49ers. Lead the Cowboys to a victory, right? And it will not happen today, okay? The 49ers will make a statement. They will beat them down 28-17, right? They'll get a late touchdown to keep it close, but the 49ers are going to shut up the Dallas Cowboys. Brock Purdy doesn't lose. Christian McCaffrey is going to go off. I don't think the 49ers will give up a sack to that Cowboys defense this game.
Wow.
All right? 28-17, 49ers. Debo goes off. Purdy throw him the ball.
I hope you're right, man.
Purdy, throw him the ball.
I have him in
don't
one of my
don't send it
leagues.
all to Ayuk. Give Debo some love. He's on my fantasy.
I have him on a team in my league, too. I like San Fran, too, as well in this game. And here it is, Dallas. Listen, good job beating the New England Patriots. Now you're playing a real big boy team, okay? The Cardinals gave you problems, and watch what the Niners did to them. So listen, Cowboys fans, this is your shot. If the Cowboys come out and pull off a miracle, I'm expecting that comment section to be lively. I want it. I want all the smoke, okay?
But listen, but like
I can
I
dish
said,
it out just like I can
Cowboy
take it.
fans, if you lose, you better show up in those comments.
You better.
We will come looking for you.
Oh, yeah, we will.
All right? We keep
Oh, yeah.
receipts.
We will.
Right?
Yep.
So run that back.
Yep.
Right after this game. We're going to be looking for you.
The media's talking about them, guys. I guess we're a part of the media now, too. All right? Care enough, though, to watch that show next week if they win that game and put some comments on some of the shorts.
And listen, Dallas, if you show up, if you win, hey, all the love, all the praise.
We got to sit here and take it.
We're going to be looking for you. So make sure at the end of the day you subscribe, you follow us on all the channels, on all the platforms, and we're going to be looking for you in those comments.
Green Bay at Las Vegas. Final game.
Ooh, final game. Listen, I'm going with the Packers on this one. I think this is an opportunity for Jordan Love to put together a full game. At the end of the day, the Raiders are hurt. I don't know if Garoppolo is going to play or not. I'm questioning that head coach.
Yep.
And how their offensive scheme is going with Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams.
Sure.
I can't trust the Raiders to win this game, so I have to go with the Green Bay Packers.
I agree with you. I'm with Green Bay. I think, though, that this could be a game where, again, start Devontae Adams. Josh Jacobs looked like he started to get it going last week with Green Bay. Maybe Aaron Jones, maybe one of their receivers. I'm not sure. Jordan Love. Time to show us if you're for real or not. Go and win a game on the road against a struggling Vegas
Prime
team
time.
and defense. Yep. So that wraps up our pick segment for this week. We only split on 2 picks, so we'll come back, obviously, next week. We always go through the picks to see who won. But I am Shane Mallory.
Ricky DaCosta.
And we will see you next week when we...
Run it back. Hey, Cowboys fans, we looking for you, baby. Same energy.